Welcome one and all to episode 114 of A Stitch in Time. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. My name is Carol. I am coming to you from my home in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, which is not too far east of Vancouver. And we have a really kind of a typical fall day out there. By typical fall day, in this part of the world, I mean it's raining. It's dark and gloomy and wet. On the bright side, it's sweater weather, and I am really happy to be wearing a wool sweater for the first time this season. This is my 3-stone cardigan that I finished last spring, and I'm not even sure if I ever really wore it. Maybe once. So it's kind of exciting to be able to put it on and well and truly wear it for the first time. I'll stand up and show you the beautiful color work. This was the first project I ever steeked. So I steeked down the front, and also it has these really cool pockets with color work inside, and I had to steek that area too. So yeah, it's fall. Another way I know it's fall is that I am drawn to a spicy warm drink. So I was just about to record. I was just going to make my usual, black tea of some sort. And then I remembered I had bought this gingerbread rooibos tea last time I ordered from David's Tea. And I thought this would taste really good in a latte, because those spicy teas often taste really good when they're paired with milk. And so that's what I did. I made up this latte, and it's just as good as I thought it was going to be. I've had a couple of sips. My only regret is I think I only bought 50 grams of that tea, and I have a feeling that it was discontinued. So I'm going to have to look into it and see if I can get my hands on any more, because I have a feeling I would, well, I know I'm going to enjoy what I have left, but I'm hoping I have enough to sort of last me this season. I wish you could taste how creamy and spicy this is. So I want to extend a special hello to any new viewers. Thanks so much for stopping by and checking out the podcast. I hope you like what you see and that you'll be back. And of course, as always, hello to all of you returning viewers. Thanks so much for coming back, spending time with me today. I feel a little bit rusty. I've been away almost 2 weeks. I was gone on holidays for a week of that time. Actually, I'm surprised because I didn't do much knitting while I was away, but I have a surprising amount of knitting content to share with you today, in part because I've been knitting a lot since I got home. I'm also excited and a little bit nervous to introduce to you today my new sock design. And also I have a really good something good segment. It's something that could have turned out to be really bad, but it turned out really good, and I will share that with you at the end. So yeah, settle in with a hot drink. If you're in the northern hemisphere, I imagine if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're reaching for something cold right about now. But tuck in, I think it's going to be a bit of a long one. First things first, I wanted to let you know that I heard back from all of the Shop the Stash Cal winners, and I mailed off your prizes to you yesterday, so they're on their way to you. So thanks again for all of you who did participate, and of course congratulations again to all of you winners. I have a new knit along that I'm going to announce shortly too, so hopefully you'll like to participate in that too. So let's get to it, shall we? Like I said, I'm excited and nervous. So at the beginning of the year, one of my, I don't like to call them resolutions, one of my goals for 2019 was to purchase at least one paid for pattern. And back in the spring, I really started to concentrate on that goal, went through stitch dictionaries and got tons of ideas. And so I have been spending the time since then knitting samples, writing out the pattern, getting logos designed and websites set up and all that sorts of things. So it all happened yesterday. I was so nervous when I pressed publish. So let me introduce to you Elsa, my first pattern for sale. So as you can see, Elsa is a pair of socks and it is knit from Chick Ashby merino fingering in the blue sugar colorway, and I received this yarn as a gift from one of our viewers called Treva. And another goal this year was to knit with some of my special skeins instead of holding on to them. And so let me tell you a little bit about what inspired this design. So I kept looking at this yarn and this color, and to me it spoke of ice and snow and frost, and I was looking for a design that would express those things. And I found this stitch pattern called Japanese Feather, and it just reminded me of frost, how it looks when it swirls on glass. And the whole time I was knitting these socks, I kept thinking about this color. It's the same color as Elsa's dress from Frozen, and I just couldn't get the name Elsa out of my mind. And so these became Elsa socks. So you can see it has a twisted rib cuff, goes into the lace pattern, traditional heel flap and gusset, and then it ends with a rounded toe, which is my preferred method. Of course, you can substitute a different heel or a different toe. It would work just fine. And so here they are as a pair. These were knit to fit me, so the width around the foot would fit about a 7 to a 7.5 inch foot. Oh, I translated that into centimeters. You know, I'm on the cusp. The metric system came in when I was in elementary school, so we had to learn it, but we'd already learned imperial, and so I am totally in between the two. So it's would be 17.75 to 19 centimeters for those of you who are more familiar with metric. And I wanted to be able to offer these socks in more than one size, and so I knit up this pair, and it is made to fit 8 to 8.5 inches, which is 20 to 21.5 centimeters. And obviously the same features. The only difference between the stitch pattern is that in between these swirly bits there are 2 purl stitches on the large size, and there's 1 purl stitch on the small size, and that was the way I could make the pattern work for both numbers. So put my face in there. So there you go. So I have the pattern is now up for sale on Ravelry, and I'm offering a coupon code for all of the podcast viewers. It's good for a week. So if you add it to your cart, use the coupon code STITCH, and you will get $2 Canadian off of your purchase. I've also opened an Etsy shop, which is called Serenity Designs. Here's my logo that my brother-in-law helped design. And so that is, I will provide the Etsy shop URL down here, and also I'll start including it in the opening credits. I've also opened an Instagram account under Serenity Designs, and I'm not sure how much I will use it. I'm not really familiar with the whole format, but I thought it would be a good way to get, you know, announcements and such out to you. So feel free to follow me there. So Serenity Designs with a K. So I'll write it down here so you can see. So I also thought, in honor of launching my new pattern, that we would also have a new knit along, an Elsa cowl. So I will open up a thread in the group, and we'll have it running from now until November 30th. I don't know what the prize will be yet, though I do have an idea of what it might be, and so hopefully you'll come by and into the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group and join us there for the knit along. And wait, there's more. I am also going to offer up 2 free copies of the pattern to viewers. So I will open up a giveaway thread also in the Ravelry group. So just comment, I guess, about the pattern. Put a comment in that thread, and I'll announce the winner next time I record. So I'll leave it open till just before I record, probably next Tuesday. I want to give a special shout out to my test knitters, M. Everingham, Marilyn, and I see she has put her socks up on Ravelry. So if you want another look at a different pair, you can go and check hers out. And also my daughter Jessica, she's WC Knitwit. She doesn't have a page yet because I'm holding on to one of her socks and she has the other. So this pair was knit out of Knit Picks Stroll. Can't remember the colorway offhand. And I thought it was interesting just to see the difference. What I realized is that this stitch pattern shows off best with quite a high twist yarn. So this gives you an idea. You can still see the stitch pattern on the Stroll, but it's a little bit of a fluffier, softer yarn. And it does definitely have a different appearance to it than the higher twist Chick Ashby yarn. And the also the Heritage. Again, there's a comparison. Oops. So that, just keep that in mind when you're choosing yarn for the project. So Jessica had finished these a while ago, and she gave them to me to wash and block. And when I put them onto the sock blockers, I turned one over and it had a hole just past where the gusset began, and whether it was a weak spot in the yarn, or I just don't know, or whether it had been split or what, it was, the yarn had snapped. And so I picked up the stitches for her, and then she has since completed her second one. But I only have the one here, so I'll give this back to her, and then she can take some pictures and put it up on her project page. So yes, also Triva, just thank you. I loved the yarn when I received it, and I just am really thrilled with what it became, and these will be forever special to me because they are my first. So thanks so much for the very kind gift and providing the inspiration for my first design. So I think that's all I need to say about that. I hope you will join me in a cowl. Okay, works in progress. So I have continued to focus on getting my In the Dunes wrap done in time for us to go on holidays in mid-October, and I am doing really well with that. I am 2 rows shy of 60% through, And I've been trying to do 12 rows a day, and I figured out that if I continue to do that, I'll be done in 2 weeks. So that gives me lots of time to wash and soak it and block it. Before then, oops, I just dropped some pattern pages on the floor. Oh, wrong bag too. Told you it's rusty. So I am knitting this from some reclaimed yarn from another project. It's this ends everywhere. It's this navy BFL fingering from Indigo Moon, and it's the Midnight Song colorway. So blue-faced luster is BFL, and yeah, it is coming along great. And you know, I'm surprisingly still not bored with it. My pattern is to my routine is to get up in the morning, make a cup of tea, and sit for about an hour and knit on this, and then I kind of work on it through the course of the day as I can, in order to I should put it this way, in order to get my 12 rows in, minimum 12 rows in a day. So as you can see, it's getting quite substantial now. And hopefully the pattern is getting easier to see. Every time I show it, I feel like it doesn't really do the stitch pattern justice. I can see just below my face there, you can get a sense of the zigzag pattern. And then maybe if I move that there, you'll see the eyelet pattern. So it just alternates between those two stitch patterns the whole length. So as I mentioned, I'm past halfway, and I have one end, almost 2 more sections of this to do, and 2 full sections of the zigzag, or chevron might be a better way to put it. So anyway, it is definitely coming along, and I am really happy with how it is turning out. Now, I have to go pick up those patterns I dropped. So I did take that shawl with me on my trip, and I did get to work on it a little bit. Another project I took with me was the Storm Shawl by Joji Locatelli. And I especially wanted to take this one with me because it is knit from this yarn from Fleece Artist, which is their Merino Slim. And it's from their National Parks collection. And this particular colorway is Banff, Alberta. And on our return trip, I was driving part of the way through Banff National Park, for which it's named, and so I really wanted to take this project with me. So here's the label, and it's funny because I didn't even notice, maybe I noticed it when I first bought it, but I hadn't recently noticed it has in little printing under this little section of the colorway. It says Moraine Lake Turquoise, Rocky Mountains, and Alpine Forests. So that's of course the inspiration. And unfortunately, when we drove through Banff Park this time, it was raining and gray, and a lot of the mountains were shrouded in clouds, and we didn't really have really great views. We didn't have time to go see Lake Louise or Moraine Lake. Anyway, they're both very close to each other, but this turquoise really is reminiscent of Moraine Lake. So I'm just going to put a photo in here from a past trip, and you can see really is this color in certain lights. It's beautiful. I actually think it's more beautiful than Lake Louise. So anyway, enough about the yarn. We say, let's see the pattern, let's see the knitting. So I have come to the point where I have one more dropped stitch section to knit, and then it's just the border. So let's see, it's getting longer and longer and harder to show off, as these things do, but you can see there's drop stitches here, goes into a eyelet section, another drop stitch section, another eyelet section, And as I say, I'm ready for the third and final drop stitch section. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how it's knitting up. I wish I could spread it out better and show you. I'm anxious to see it blocked. All those stitch markers along the bottom were just my count. As I was counting the stitches in preparation for the next row, I wanted to make sure I had the right number, and I just put those in as a guide so I wouldn't have to count and recount. So yeah, it's knitting up really, really pretty. So I actually did knit on this the day we went through Banff. We got to our hotel on the other side in Golden, for those of you who are familiar with the area. And actually it was really nice because I had just booked a double room, 2 double beds. We opened our door and we had a sitting area with a couch and a TV, little fridge and counter around the corner, and a desk with a computer chair, and then we each had our own separate bedroom with a door. So it was really nice because we got there kind of late afternoon, so we both pulled out our knitting, and I was traveling with my mom, for those who don't know already. So we both pulled out our knitting, watched some TV, and just had a really nice evening. So it was perfect. And yeah, it was just felt just right to be knitting on this project on that particular day. I feel like there was something else I was going to say about that. Oh yeah, it was funny because our room was, I think it was 326, and it was right at the end of the hall, and my mom walked just past our door and around a little corner, and she said there's one more door there, it's 330. So we walked into our place, and there was a room number on her bedroom door, 328, and we just had a good laugh about who was staying in 328 that night, and they'd have to walk through our room to get to theirs. I just thought it was very funny that in a suite, I guess you'd call it, that they would have 2 room numbers and one on the inside. So it didn't quite make sense, but it made for a good laugh anyway. And of course, nobody did come in that night. After I got home, actually on Saturday, we were at a funeral home very close to where Black Cat is. That was across the street, and I had ordered some yarn for my rock pooling shawl. So I popped in to see if it was ready. So if you remember, this is Rock Pooling Shawl by Helen Stewart also. It's also like the In the Dunes wrap, is part of the Shawl Society 4 collection. And this has been one of those projects that I've never been 100% satisfied with. And yet I persevere. So I have tried various combinations of Black Cat's, I don't even have a yarn label here, Black Cat Custom Yarn Double Double. I've tried various combinations, and some have been too subtle, and some have been they just haven't worked out with enough contrast and various things. So I had decided that my final incarnation was going to be this for the first color, this for the second color. This is Hoth, this is stainless, and then because this has like a light turquoisey blue, aqua blue in it, I wanted a blue that would match this. And the only one that they had that came close was something called Frost Nova, and I saw it in a different yarn base and got them to dye up a skein for me. So that's what I decided. I was going to go with those 3 in that order. And then once I picked this up and started knitting with it next to this, I decided I wanted to swap it up again. So I took back what I had knit in the stainless and started again with the Frost Nova. So this is my new order. It is a little bit brighter than I was anticipating. And whether or not the skein itself is brighter than the one I looked at, I honestly have no idea. Just in my mind, it was going to be closer to this kind of aqua color in this yarn. I'll see if I can find a spot with it. Not easily. Maybe right there. In any case, I think it still works, but I was concerned about it really standing out, and I decided I wanted to make it more of a background color. And so because the first color has the appearance of being the foreground color in this stitch pattern, I decided to use it as the background, which is why I took it back. And then I've just begun now the third color, and again the turquoise serves as a background as opposed to the foreground, and I just thought it would tone it down a little bit. So let me see, I'm going to spread this out as much as I can. Again, it's just getting so big it's hard to do that. I think I'm about 60% of the way through this one too. Of course, it knits up a lot faster because it's DK weight yarn on larger needles. But this, I am planning on being a Christmas gift for my mom, and now I'm kind of having second thoughts about that because I'm not convinced this is her, these are her, well, I'm not convinced the blue is her color. Certainly the gray tones. So I am not sure what's happening with this, but I am going to finish it. Now it's just a matter of principle. I am going to knit this shawl come hell or high water. So that's that. And hopefully by next week, you never know, maybe it'll be done. I've been knitting on that quite a bit. I think I picked it up again Saturday night and work on it most evenings, so it doesn't take that long. I don't knit on my In the Dunes wrap at night because it is so dark. And then finally, let me just make sure, oh no, I've got two more things. So I've been putting off knitting this next project. It's one of those of necessity. That's a new pair of felted clogs for myself. My old ones have holes in the bottom, and now that it's cooler, I can't get away with bare feet anymore. And I really don't enjoy walking around in sock feet. I really like to have a slipper on my foot if I'm not going to be barefoot. So I've knit umpteen of these. It's by Bewick Alaskas. And so this one, I do have part of one done. I have the upper and one sole, and I have one more sole I have to knit and attach to this because the pattern does have a double sole. And then they look big and floppy and ridiculous, but you put them in a washing machine and felt them, or I believe folding them. To fold them is the proper term, but it's referred to as felting by most people. So that I've got on the go. So the red is some leftovers from a sweater I knit. It's Cascade 220 in the 24-26 colorway, which I see on Ravelry, because now they all seem to have names. It used to be Cascade 220, didn't have colorway names. I see it's been called Cherry. I call it more, I think of it more as a bit of a tomato red, but who am I to say? And then these soles and contrast are from Peyton's Classic Wool. This is a dark gray mix, color 00225, I believe that is. I don't have my reading glasses on. And my contacts, they are multifocal, but they don't cut it anymore for close-up reading. So I usually have to pop a pair of reading glasses on over top them to see the really fine print. So anyway, doing these a bit at a time, and they'll come in handy. Definitely feeling the lack of usable slippers right now. So don't really want to knit them, but necessary evil. So I've also continued to work on my next design project, and I've been showing that to you off and on over the past few weeks. So I finished my first large sample sock that I'm making to fit my husband. I thought this stitch pattern would be suitable for both men and women. And this is in Black Cat custom yarn, or it's their luxury sock in the Golgothan colorway. So their label, and so they fit just right, so that's good. I haven't blocked them or anything, obviously, but they've come along nicely. So I think what I'm going to do is finish my first small sample first, and then I'll get back and do the second one of these up. So I'm hoping to get this released this fall also, because all the samples are knit in nice fall colors, and I think it would be a good one, you know, to have released, to release in the fall. So hopefully I'm able to knit fast enough and get it all together. I have a feeling the second and the ongoing patterns are going to cause me a little less anxiety and be easier to get up and running, because all the foundation is now in place. So I have another sip here before I continue. So I went to Edmonton with my mom to go visit my aunt and uncle. And I thought while I was there I might be able to get an opportunity to go to River City Yarns. And I looked up the address and directions and everything before I left. And in fact, the shop's only like 6 kilometers from their place. But it just didn't work out. We got there late Friday afternoon, early evening. And Saturday we visited a lot in the morning. We went out to see my cousin in the afternoon, and so we just ran out of time, and they were closed on Sunday, and we left first thing Monday morning. However, on the way home, we stopped at a yarn shop in Kamloops that I've been to once before, and that was when I drove my mom to Alberta the last time, 3 years ago. I think it's called Knit 2, and I'll put the name here because I might have that wrong, but I think that's what it's called. A beautiful shop, and I guess she had just opened just over 3 years ago. So the first time I was there was when it was quite new. She's got all sorts of, but she's just got a great selection, both indie dyed yarns and your commercial yarns. Tons of samples, a very warm, friendly atmosphere. I could have stayed there so much longer. Thankfully, my mom's a knitter too, and so she enjoyed looking around too. I didn't feel like I was, you know, whenever I'm traveling with Cameron and we stop at a yarn shop, I always feel like I don't want to keep him too long because it's not his thing. But we really enjoyed looking around. So one thing I picked up was this skein of West Yorkshire Spinners. It's a candy cane colorway, which is a number 989. Yes. So I have some of the Cayenne, I think it is the Cayenne colorway, which is the red, that I'll do probably heels and toes out of that. So I was kind of glad to see this. Every time I've knit with West Yorkshire Spinners, I've had to buy it in like online. So it was neat to actually see some in person. And I was really thrilled to pick up a Christmas colorway, because I think I had considered ordering this last year and then couldn't get it, or I can't remember why I didn't. But anyway, now I have it. So I've got some more Christmas socks. And this is my other purchase, which I just love. Isn't this beautiful? I had never heard of this dyer before. It's called Fiddly Dye Works. And apparently they're just in Langley, which is maybe an hour's drive west of where I live. And it's the merino sock, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. This one is called Karras. This one is Gretchen. I'm not sure what reference, if there is a particular reference to those names, but I just thought they went so beautifully together. I was actually hoping there was one more that would make a, you know, a 3-color fade, but I think what I'm probably going to do is a 2-color shawl out of this, and maybe use 1 color for the main body and 1 for the edging. That's sort of what's percolating at the moment, but I just thought, I just love this colorway. I thought these 2 colorways, I thought they were just beautiful. So anyway, those were fun. And I would have bought a sweater's quantity worth of yarn if they'd had 1 more skein. I'm not sure how new or old this yarn is, but it's Cascade 220 Wave, and it's like a barber poled yarn, similar to how Zauberball Crazy knits up. So the colors go in kind of graduated stripes depending on how the 2 colors barber pole together. They have this gorgeous kind of tealy blue colorway, but they only had 4 skeins, and I definitely need 5 for a sweater. So I have looked online since I got home, and I can get it online, and I also see they have it in fingering weight too, and I'm really tempted by a certain colorway to do a fingering weight sweater. So stay tuned. I have a feeling that might be in my future. For now, it's just up on the screen on the computer, and I look at it every so often, but I'm just letting it percolate. That's kind of what I do. I don't like to impulse shop, so if it's something I really think about a lot, I'll sometimes finally pull the trigger, but I try not to just like get boom, boom, buy, because that's how regret sets in, right? That is cold now. Not as good cold, I'll tell you that. So yeah, anyway, so one more acquisition. So Jessica, my daughter, is part of Black Cat's monthly sock club. And I think she said this was August colorway. I'm not sure if it says on here. No, it's called Burninator. It's their everyday sock base, which I really like. It just wasn't her colors, and she asked if I would want to trade her for it. So she came over yesterday and picked out some yarn in trade, and these are definitely more my colors. I think these will make just a fun pair of socks. So that's another acquisition. Okay, trip to Edmonton. So it started out with not so well. I left home about 10:30 and got about, I'm not even sure how far away from home, but got turned around. There was an accident further up the road. The road was closed, and so I had to turn around, go back part way, and then take another highway, and then take another highway to get back to the highway I needed to be on in order to get to my mom's to pick her up. So I phoned her to let her know I was going to be late. Once I turned around, got back to the next town, and I said, I'm like a half an hour from home, but I've been gone over 2 hours. And so, of course, if this had been the most direct route, I would have taken it, but because it wasn't, it took longer to travel to get to her place. So I didn't get to her house. I was aiming, normally would have gotten there somewhere between 1:30 and 2. Didn't make it there till probably 4:30. And then she had an errand to run in town just to go pick up her mail before we left town. So by the time we left town, it was 10 minutes to 5. We had to go to a place called Valemont, which was a good 4 hours away. Ideal weather, traffic conditions, no stops. And of course we hadn't had dinner or anything, so we did stop for a meal. We finally got to Valemont at 9:45. That's when I checked in. So I'd been gone, well, over 11 hours by the time our trip for the day ended. So I was really tired, needless to say. That's probably the most driving I've ever done in one day. Not probably, it is the most driving I personally have done in one day. And yeah, it felt so good to get to the motel and just kind of chill for a bit before we got up and did it all over again the next day. Thankfully, the road was really good. The lines were really well marked because the last hour and probably hour and a half were all in darkness. And so you had, there are lots of trucks out on the road, so you have those headlights coming at you all the time. But it really, all things considered, wasn't too bad a drive. So we woke up in the morning surrounded by mountains, which we hadn't been able to see the night before. And so we headed into the Rockies. And I was such a poor photographer this trip. I took my camera and I only took a handful of pictures. But here's a picture of Mount Robson, which I feel like it's either the tallest mountain peak in the Rockies or in BC. I can't remember. I'll put it down here because I'll look it up. I can remember when I was 9, our family went to Disneyland, and then on our way home we kind of did a circle route, hit Edmonton and hit Prince George on our way home in order to see my aunts and uncles who lived there. And so I can remember driving west from Edmonton, and I can remember my mom saying, girls, look at Mount Robson. And we turned around, and in our rear view window of our car, there was Mount Robson with the road leading out from it. And even though I know at the time we probably all went, oh yeah, and I probably wasn't that interested, I've never forgotten that view. And I've only driven this route a handful of times, so every time I do see it, it's just reminds me of how commanding this mountain is. And so it's often hidden, at least partially hidden by clouds, so we were really lucky to get it cloud free. So I hope you enjoy that picture. It really was spectacular. And then we decided, we entered into Jasper National Park, so we did decide to spend a little bit of time in the town of Jasper. We were ready for a bathroom break and a cup of tea or a snack or whatever, and we walked around a little bit. So we were there about an hour, and then we got in the car and kept on going. So we got to Edmonton. I think it was about 5:30 by the time we got to my aunt's and uncle's place. And one of my cousins and her partner were there for happy hours, so we had a nice visit with them. And like I said, Saturday, more visiting. We played tons and tons of cards. My aunt and uncle, especially my aunt, are really keen card players. And so I've lost count of how many games of rummy and golf that we played, but we played a lot. But it was good because you could visit and play cards at the same time. And then neither of us realized that we were there very close to my aunt and uncle's 70th, yes, 70th wedding anniversary. It was last Tuesday. And so they thought that's why we had timed our trip when we did. And in fact, we just timed it around what worked best for our schedules. And it was just a happy coincidence that we were there to get in on the celebration. So they had a family dinner out at a restaurant on the Sunday night. So we got to take part in that. And again, I am kicking myself. I took my camera with me. I left it in my purse the entire time. I meant to get pictures the next day with my aunt and uncle and my mom, and I forgot in the flurry of getting ready to go. I am just kicking myself. But you can't go back in time and fix it. But what regret. And they didn't do any formal pictures or anything at the time, so there's just a handful of pictures that my cousin's partner took. That's all there is from that occasion. It just seems a shame. In any case, we had a really, really fantastic visit with them. This is my dad's brother, who's just about, not quite 2 years older, about a year and a half older than he would be. And I always forget, they're the two, they look quite a bit alike, and over the years there's been a couple times where little kids have been not sure which one's which, including one of my sisters. And I'd kind of forgotten how much they can be alike in their mannerisms and such too. So it's sort of like the next best thing to seeing my dad, who I miss very much. He passed away 4 years ago. So it was, and they're my godparents too. So it was just a special visit. Phone. Be right back. So that was my husband. I usually try and remember to text him before I record so I can avoid that, but my fault, I forgot. So I think I was just saying that we had a really good visit with my aunt and uncle, and we left first thing Monday morning, and unfortunately both days driving back to my mom's were showers off and on. My wipers were on more than they were off. Also delayed both on the way there and on the way back a few places by road construction, so that made the trip a little bit longer. But we got into my mom's, and then we went out, grabbed things to have for dinner, and went out to the cabin overnight. So that was nice. Yet another stay out there. We'll have one more this year before we close things up for the season. And then, I headed home the next day. Weather was much better, but it felt like forever to get home. I think because I was like so close, and I just wanted to be home by then. Since I've been back, nothing extraordinarily exciting. We had some nice family time over the weekend with all our kids, as it turned out. Jessica and Neil had invited us over Saturday evening, and so we enjoyed a few hours there with them and the kids. And then Sunday, our older son called to see if we wanted to go for happy hour, and he had got a new kitten that he wanted to show off. So his girlfriend had bought him a new kitten, a little 8-week-old black male. So he hasn't named him yet, but he's very, what's the word, energetic, playful. I think he's going to be a bit of a troublemaker, so definitely has a personality. So that was, who can resist a little kitten? They're so darn cute. Let me see what else, if I got anything written down. Oh yes, curling starts on Thursday. We thought we had one more week before the season started, but nope, it's time to get going with that again. So it'll be good to get back on the ice. And because that takes place on Thursdays, and I am going to put my name down as a spare in a Wednesday morning league. So I'm going to adopt Tuesday as my new recording day most of the time. So you can look for my episodes a little bit earlier in the week than has been the usual. So yeah, that leads me to something good. So I don't always talk about lots of personal stuff on here, as you know, but a few months ago I had a mammogram, and I had to go back for a diagnostic mammogram because there was something they wanted to look at closer, and then I had to go back for an ultrasound. So I actually did that the morning before I left for my trip. And my mom's a breast cancer survivor, and even though she has 7 sisters and lots of female aunts and cousins and things, and it's not something that has run in their family, thankfully, it's always there in the back of my mind. And I am very, very, very pleased to say that while we were on our way home, we were in our hotel in Golden, and I got a message from Cameron to say the doctor had called and my ultrasound was fine, and I just have to go back in 6 months for a follow-up mammogram. So that is something very, very, very good and a huge relief. Something that obviously has been on my mind for quite a while. So you didn't know that, but yes, something very, very good. And on that happy note, I'm going to say goodbye. So I will, in the show notes, provide all the links to where you can purchase my new sock pattern. I hope you will take part in the knit along and definitely take part in the giveaway. So come on over to the Ravelry group, make a comment in that thread, and I will draw 2 winners that I'll announce on my next podcast. So good luck to you all. Thanks so much for watching. If you're still with me, take care, and I will talk to you soon.